Is it safe to assume that since Elden Ring came out, or maybe even before that, we might have been living in the FromSoftware golden age of gaming, as each one of their releases instantly becomes the most talked about game in the industry? This is similar to CD Projekt Red's golden age after The Witcher 3 launched, as it led to Cyberpunk 2077 being one of the most hyped releases ever. Low-key, we might have still been living in that age if CD Projekt Red managed to get that release right. Or even better, do people still remember Ubisoft's golden age of the late 2000s and early 2010s? Only a few game studios can come close to the numbers they were putting out back then. Now, both of these eras unfortunately ended tragically with the infamous Cyberpunk release and Ubisoft's fall from grace. That being the case, I hope Elden Ring Nightreign is not a red herring that the same fate lies in store for FromSoftware. Now, what am I referring to when I'm saying this? Is Nightreign a bad game? Did this legendary developer finally manage to miss after a long streak of tremendous achievements? Nah, that's not the case. Elden Ring Nightreign is a decent game, but I would place it in the same category as Cyberpunk, not because of a disastrous launch, but because only consistent updates and additional content can save this game from being forgotten and also can elevate it to legendary status. Let me explain what I'm talking about. Elden Ring Nightreign feels like a board game night. Look, if you wanted me to be direct, you should have read the title and not click on this video. Now please let me do my thing and use dumb metaphors to illustrate my point. You will enthusiastically go into your first run and you will have a lot of fun because everything is new to you. So even if you lose, by the end of the night you would have had an entertaining experience. The second time you're invited to a game, you will go in with the same attitude because your first experience was fun, so you have no reason to believe things will turn out different. After the third time, you will start craving that win because you are already familiar with the rules, so the only thing that can keep things fresh is to actually beat the game, and you actually manage to do it, so everything feels amazing. Now that you've beat the game, you feel a bit unsure about going for a fourth night of board games. Don't forget, this entire bit is about board games. So in order to enjoy yourself and also spend time with your friends, you try a different game, and at first everything starts feeling exciting again because the rule set has changed, but soon enough you will start going through the same process all over again. Excitement, confusion, frustration, relief, boredom. And after you've repeated this cycle over and over again and shit didn't change, you will finally snap and kill everybody sitting at the table because you cannot endure Catan anymore. This abomination of quote-unquote entertainment has ruined enough families for it to still be allowed to exist. Please sign this petition to outlaw Catan because it falls under psychological torture, which doesn't follow the Geneva Convention, and it's the only thing that's worse than Monopoly. Anyway, enough of board games and my hatred of Catan. What I just described is the average playthrough of Elden Ring Nightreign. The game is as fun as every other FromSoftware game due to its gameplay, but because the gameplay loop is shallow, as it lacks a ton of variety and content, its lifespan suffers tremendously. In its presentation, Elden Ring Nightreign is a okay, bear with me for a second. A co-op roguelike action RPG battle royale kinda game. It's like Elden Ring, Risk of Rain, and Fortnite had a threesome, and this abomination came out of their night of sinful pleasure. In theory, this sounds like the most replayable game FromSoftware has ever made, but in execution, this actually might be the least replayable. The gameplay loop consists of dropping from the battle bus into the lands between, running all over the map fighting a varied assortment of mobs, trying to get better loot and more experience to level up, whilst the night circle keeps getting smaller and smaller and finally confronting a boss at the end of the day. You repeat this cycle for 2 days, and on the third day you face off with the big bad raid boss, the Night Lord. These Night Lords are the unique aspect to Nightreign, as everything else from the weapons to the bosses are directly ported over from Elden Ring and the other Souls games. Yeah, you heard that right, we got shit from Dark Souls up in this bitch. We were all hyped when we saw the Nameless King in the trailer, but I'm pleased to announce that he brought along some friends, as the Dancer, the Gaping Dragon and the Centipede Demon are back. Too bad that Dark Souls 2 didn't receive any love. Psych! Smelter Demon is back, baby. Fuck yeah, Dark Souls 2 is the best Dark Souls. Suck my dick. It's really compelling to fight these old faces with the new and improved combat system from Elden Ring. It also helps that they have all been revamped with new overpowered abilities in order to make these face-offs balanced in their favor, obviously. When it comes to the Night Lords, I would not necessarily call them balanced because these bastards have to take into consideration 3 people with OP gear, so even flying blobs that remind me of the Moonlight Butterfly with its pussy behavior will humble you with their overtuned kits. But that's where the fun lies in Elden Ring Nightreign. Defeating hella overpowered bosses with your friends. That is, if you have friends, because FromSoft really went from calling us maidenless in Elden Ring to calling us friendless in Nightreign, as the solo experience ranges from miserable to underwhelming. Let me tell you, if this game was only single player containing the same amount of content that it has now, I would have not had the patience to finish it, but I will get to that in a bit. If you're a big fan of Elden Ring or FromSoftware in general, I would not advise you purchase this game if you don't have at least one friend to play it with, because if you went to venture on your own, you will struggle having fun, or in my experience, at least I did. From what I understand, the progression issues have been largely fixed in the latest patches, as the enemy scaling and the rune acquisition has been adjusted to help out the solo players. While that is a good thing, I'm not referring to generic numerical issues. I'm referring to fundamental issues that lie in the core structure of the game. The big one is communication. If you drop in with random players, you can only rely on pings to coordinate with each other as a team. If you want to do multiple objectives at once or just create a comprehensive game plan from the start, you don't have the facilities for that, big man. On one hand, it is truly frustrating to see everyone go on their own in a game where cooperation should be the key for success. On the other hand, I completely get why FromSoft would not want to add a voice chat or even a regular chat, because the toxicity would go through the roof. Look, I am a reformed League player. I have been down that path, but like Thorfinn, I have no enemies now. That being said, I still feel that I have that monster in me, because every time I tried playing solo and I got abandoned by other players, losing levels in the process, I felt the urge to bring my old self back and yell out the evilest insults I could come up with to my teammates, because in my mind, they deserved it. If you play as Iron Eye and you just stand far away without shooting the goddamn enemies, I hope life goes unexpectedly wrong to the point you will not be able to afford another FromSoftware game. Bruh, maybe that was too harsh, damn. Anyway, in order to avoid these types of players, you might want to venture only by yourself. But like I previously mentioned, this method will only make you to now wanting to finish the game, and that is because everything gets old way too quickly. Like Monopoly or Catan, you will figure out most of the rules during your first run, and during each subsequent attempt, you will figure out more useful details, such as the fact that there are 2 types of overworld bosses based on difficulty, which can be distinguished by the color which highlights the icon, or that if you encounter the bell-bearing hunter, you want to leave immediately. After a couple of runs, not only you would have learned pretty much every major aspect of the game, but you would have seen almost everything the game has to offer. Every location has a pre-established pool of bosses that doesn't change. The forts are always occupied by the same bosses. If you see enemies taking damage, you already know they're fighting an adjudicator, and if not, you know to run past them and fight a Crystallion or a big boy knight. The big castle in the middle has also fixed variations. You get Crucible Knights, Banished Knights, or trolls throwing fucking bombs at you. In the sewers, the same thing. A fixed pool of bosses, and like I said, if you encounter the bell-bearing hunter, run. There's no point in beating him, you just got fucked over by RNG. Even the bosses at the end of the night get the same treatment. The boss always comes after an initial wave of enemies, but I swear to God, the wave almost always determines the boss you are going to fight. If you get rats and shit, you're facing Worm Face. or if you get a dragon, you're facing Nameless King. I might be tripping, but I'm almost certain this is the case. It's not as if you can better prepare for what's to come, but this makes encounters very anticlimactic. Like, you couldn't randomize enemy spawns a little bit more? If I think about it, almost nothing is randomized if you look closer at the entire picture, because every location has its own sub-presets and the algorithm just picks one out at random, but the enemies are always the same. The only truly random thing is the location for every point of interest, and because of this, you can actually get some enjoyment out of planning the most optimal route to maximize your chances at success. Now that we got to the core of the gameplay loop, running around the map from point of interest to point of interest suffers from two big problems. One of them I think is purely personal. I will own this aspect. This entire process is so anxiety inducing. Maybe I'm really bad at the game, but I consider most Night Lords difficult enough that I'm not confident to face them if I'm not almost max level. That being the case, I feel like in order to get to max level, you can't really waste even a second. You have to constantly keep moving from one end of the map to the other, checking off every location on your way. I don't even feel safe taking a second to choose my reward after defeating a boss. I have to decide in a split second, then advance to the next point of interest whilst also taking into account the one I'm going to head towards next. This entire multitasking, brain-draining, stress-inducing process can take a toll on you after a couple of runs, but again, maybe this is how my fucked up mind views this gameplay loop, so I won't hold this as valid criticism. If you also find the rhythm of the game really fast, please let me know in the comments so I don't feel that much crazy. The other negative aspect regarding the gameplay loop is how detrimental RNG is to your run. If you get 3 churches that are all spread in different parts of the map, you're fucked because you won't have enough flasks. If you get the bell-bearing hunter, you're fucked. If you get this disgusting piece of shit of a random event that is the swarm of locusts, you are justified to just rage quit the run and try again, because it is truly a run killer. I know there is a way to stop it, but I find the process too distracting to be worth the hassle, because it will completely ruin your strategy, and I feel that a well-planned strategy almost guarantees your ability to defeat the Night Lord. That being said, let me be a bit hypocritical for a moment and say that it is really compelling to think on your feet and to constantly adapt based on the situation you find yourself in. If you run into the bell-bearing hunter, fuck it, run away and try to do something else. Maybe the night circle position fucks you over, but you try and tank it for a bit to grab more loot. This is elevated 10 times more if you're playing with friends, because you're constantly brainstorming about what should you do next, and then you either panic and completely destroy your run, or you lock in and turn your bad situation into a satisfying comeback. Now, I've mentioned earlier that the bosses are the unique aspect about the game, but I've actually lied, so it seems that I'm a hypocritical and a liar. What better reasons do I need to give you to subscribe? The other unique thing about Nightreign are the classes you get to play as. Unlike Elden Ring, you don't get to build your character however you like, but you actually get the option to play as one of 8 different characters, each one being distinctly different than the other. Each one basically resembles one normal playthrough of Elden Ring, as one focuses mainly on strength, one on magic, but what makes them unique are their special abilities. All characters get 2 of these, one of them being the ultimate, and they really bring together a rather limited character progression system, as some of them drastically change the gameplay, with one character in particular turning the entire game into Sekiro because he has the ability to deflect enemy attacks. The same guy can also turn into a fucking demon if that wasn't enough for you. Now, this sounds fun, but then you get in the game and you see that there is practically no variation when it comes to your build. If you play as a dexterity focused character, grab a katana or something, you can't change your scaling. The worst part is that the weapons don't bring anything special into the mix. They represent only stats. The rewards overall don't change the gameplay loop that much, because they don't offer that many unique additions to your build. You don't get to experiment with weird stuff or find new approaches to the game, which is weird because this game is heavily inspired by roguelikes. But unlike most roguelikes in which your runs feel like completely different games, Nightreign feels like the same game every run, and after you beat the final boss, there is no incentive for you to play anymore, or at least that's how I felt. When I'm making the controversial statement that Elden Ring Nightreign is a little bit shallow, I don't want to undermine the talent that went into creating this game, because at the end of the day, I had a lot of fun with it, but that is basically attributed to the fact that I experienced it with friends, and as we all know, everything is a lot more fun when you're doing it with people that you care about, especially drugs. At its core, Nightreign is a solid game with one major flaw. It ends, and it ends way too quickly. This would not have been a problem for any other major FromSoft entry, but the scope and structure of this game led me to believe that I would get a crazy amount of playtime, considering that's the case with every major roguelike, and after beating the final boss, I only ended up questioning if this was actually worth the $40 I paid for it. And my answer is that it's not. I know that we are transitioning into the $80 games era, but that doesn't mean asset flips are now worth half of that. Okay, maybe I'm too mean when I say that, but Nightreign does feel stapled together at times, because you basically get to have most of FromSoftware's mechanics in one overcrowded mess. They even brought back the rally system from Bloodborne and the double jumping from Sekiro, which works terribly in an open world setting, by the way. My only gripe with the game is its lack of variety and innovation, because it directly affects the replayability. After you've beat all of the 8 Night Lords and played as every character, which will approximately take you from 15 to 20 hours, you've basically seen and done everything. The map stays the same, even with the 4 variations, the enemies will be the same, the weapons, and so on. After you've played Monopoly every night for 2 weeks in a row, not only will you be sick of building hotels and paying taxes, but you will get tired of board games in general, because there is nothing fresh and interesting that will make you keep coming back. As I've mentioned, in theory, Nightreign was supposed to be the most replayable Souls-like due to the endless possibilities of gameplay it could have provided, but I would much rather go back and replay Elden Ring or any other Souls-like, because I think there is more to see there than here. In order to keep its player base afloat, Nightreign doesn't need a singular expansion like Elden Ring, but it needs constant updates that will address balancing issues, nerf the fucking gargoyle, and will also bring new things to the lands between. This game needs new shit to drop at a consistent rate, just like Fortnite. So FromSoftware, please add the battle pass and invincible to the game. I'm fucking kidding, don't monetize this shit. The dollar to gameplay ratio is already poor. Just start porting every boss from Dark Souls, add more map variations, and you'll be good. We all want to fight Gale, Midir, and the Bed of Chaos. You can also bring some Bloodborne shit up in this bitch. Don't be shy, add the Orphan of Chaos. Look, if you have 2 friends with whom you can play this game, sure, buy it and have fun. You will get some enjoyment out of it before you start getting bored. If you want to go into this game by yourself, don't. Just play Elden Ring or The Binding of Isaac, or both at the same time. It's basically the same thing, but better, because there is a lot more to see there. Once again, maybe I'm tripping, so please let me know in the comments, but at the end of the day, the game I hope to keep me busy until the next big FromSoftware drop turned out to be shallower than I could have ever imagined. Now I don't know what to do until Miyazaki comes back. If you're still here, I appreciate you for watching this video. I hope we run into each other on Nightreign. Until then, your presence has been priceless. Take care.